Hello there all and good afternoon. I hope this video finds you well. This video is for Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. So I have updated a few things on our Blackboard page. So I am going to start there today because I have a lot to go through. Alright, so I have updated the syllabus, so please make sure to download the updated version of the syllabus because that's where I'm going to be starting today. Okay, so here's where we are on the schedule. Today we're going to be beginning to talk about the research position paper, and we're going to talk about the invention, and there will be a writing lab. It will be writing lab 5, and that will be due on Thursday by midnight. And then on Thursday we're going to talk about how to support reasons and claims within the final research paper, or the final research positions paper, which is what it stands for, RPP. And then I will be talking about how to include the rebuttal, which I'll be talking about the guidelines and everything today as well. So that's why this video might be a little bit longer, if I had to guess. But anyway, on Thursday I'll be talking about supporting reasoning and claims, and then the writing lab will be due on Thursday by midnight. And you should have began looking at the guidelines, and hopefully the invention will help with creating a working thesis for the paper, so that's what we're doing this week. And also, like I said, the writing lab will be due for homework. And of course, the syllabus can always be found under the syllabus tab. Just a quick note that I will be working on grading papers this week. I have to begin grading the mapping essay, probably either tonight or tomorrow morning. So I'll be working on that. And then, yeah, as you saw in the schedule, there's really not much left of class. And then next Tuesday, actually, next week, we'll be working on drafting the final paper. And the good news is about the final paper, the position paper, is that it's all stuff that we've been doing and learning. So like some of the stuff that you've been doing in the mapping essay, like making quotation sandwiches and stuff like that, will also be included within the research position paper. So it's basically just combining all the stuff we've been learning all semester and then putting it into a paper. And then as you saw, the final research positions paper, which is the last paper for this course, is due on Tuesday, May 5th by midnight on Blackboard. And then Thursday, May 7th is when final portfolios are due and final reflection letters are due. And also please note that the peer review for the research positions paper is also on May 5th. And this is also the day that other revised papers are due, is on May 5th by midnight. And I will be working on, I also have to grade the final presentations, but I will be getting final grades. I think final grades are due on, I think, May 11th, if I'm correct. I think that's right. It's either May 11th or May 13th or somewhere in there, but it's very shortly after the course ends is when final grades are due, so I probably will be grading everything, or whatever is left that I have to grade probably will finish after everyone's portfolio is submitted. And then I also have to grade portfolios, so I'll probably be pulling a couple all-nighters for that, but that's okay. It's worth it. So that is one thing that you should be doing also, is working on your portfolio. Okay. And you should have submitted the mapping paper already. If you have not done that, I would do that as soon as possible. Alright, so the writing lab that I'm talking about today can be found on Blackboard. On the left side of the page here, you're going to go under Writing Labs. And then it is under the Writing Lab number 5, Final Paper Invention. And this will all be described in the PowerPoint I'll be going over. So I think what I'm going to do is first go over the final paper invention and then go over the guidelines. So using the materials from the video today, make sure to complete Writing Lab 5. Please be sure to use Google Documents and title it Writing Lab number 5, and then what you will do is go under the Writing Lab Final Paper Invention here. And this prompt here will be described in the PowerPoint presentation I'll be going over shortly. But first, let me just show you. So for Writing Lab 5, what you will do is create a new Google Doc, which you all know how to do by now. And then once you have the link to share for that, make sure to turn on permissions so that people can actually view your documents, so I can actually be able to see it more specifically. And then once you have the Google Doc link and have permissions all set up and have the link, all you do is go on here and go under Create Thread. And then you'll type in a subject and share the link to your writing lab. Again, the writing lab is due on this Thursday by midnight. And just as a small side note, the Google slide presentation that I'm going to be going over can be found under Lessons. And this one I'll be going over today will be under RPP Invention, which stands for the Research Positions Paper. Okay, so let's get into that. Here is the presentation. Okay. Okay, so we will be discussing the research position paper guidelines. I'll be doing that shortly once I go through this PowerPoint here. And then I will be going over how to support claim with reasons in your paper. And then I will be going over the Writing Lab 5, which I already did. That will be due for homework on Thursday by midnight. And I will also be going over the research position sample. I have a sample paper posted. And as always, all materials from today can be found on Blackboard. And here is just a screenshot of our current schedule, which can be found on Blackboard as well. Okay, so status update. By now you should have completed a draft of the mapping essay. You should have posted the draft and completed the reflection and conducted a peer review. And then once you have received feedback from a peer, you should have revised the mapping essay and turned it in. So here are our last steps, which is pretty exciting. Today's class will focus on preparing and inventing for the final essay, the research positions paper. You will brainstorm solutions to your issue, brainstorm audiences for your issue, think about your own individual claim, and begin to construct a claim. So the last steps. So here's just a quick summary of what we've done so far. Is you have advocated for research with an issue proposal. You have conducted a preliminary research on the topic by compiling an annotated bibliography. You have listened fairly and accurately to multiple sides of the issue by writing a mapping essay which worked to position you on that issue. Now finally, it is time for you to have your own say. You will do this by advancing the conversation in a new direction. So here are the guidelines for Writing Lab 5. You will use the following slides to complete the Writing Lab. And the finished lab is due to me by midnight on April 23rd, which is Thursday. Make sure to answer the following questions to complete the lab. Share the lab via a Google Doc. You'll need to decide where you want to make an intervention. We need to locate what you want to argue. So, here are the steps for the Writing Lab. This is the steps for the Writing Lab. If that's not clear, this is what you should be looking at for the Writing Lab. So the first step you need to take is locating your controversy. What exactly is the problem with the issue as you see it? What has been done to solve or resolve this problem so far? So here's an example for the topic of gun control. So the first thing you should be doing is locating your controversy. After researching the issue, I think the problem with gun control is that some groups, like the NRA, believe owning a gun is a constitutional right. Others believe not all guns should be in the hands of all people. So far, several laws have been passed restricting gun rights. Students stage protests, anti-gun groups have formed. The controversy is still there because of the Constitution. So then you will need to decide what you want to be done. This is basically motivating your reader to action, which is something that I have talked about. So then you're going to want to locate your argument. If you can make anything happen on this issue, what would it be? You can argue to change someone's mind, define things differently, ask for votes, seek new laws, to stage a protest, enact a boycott, overturn court cases, call for other reforms, enacting a fundraiser, or calling for research. So here's an example on how to locate your argument. After looking at all of these sides, I decided that guns should be available to US citizens, but with restrictions. I don't think just anyone should be able to carry a gun. If I could do anything to solve this issue, I would like for people to realize that not all guns are bad. So then you'll need to decide who you want to persuade. Our next step is to choose an audience. Think back to the mapping essay and all of the different sides you investigated. You're going to want to locate your audience. Look at what you want to be done about the issue. Ask yourself, who is it that is capable of making the change you want to make? So here's an example. For gun control, if I could do anything to solve this issue, I would like for people to realize not all guns are bad. So more specifically, you have to define more specifically on that. So the anti-gun groups are those that would need to be persuaded. They are liberal, Democrats, gun victims, and maybe families of gun victims. Again, this is just an example. So then let's make a thesis, and then you're going to construct your thesis. Now that you have an action and an audience, you are ready to create a working claim or thesis statement. Claim and thesis statement are interchangeable, it's the same thing. That will eventually evolve into a thesis statement. Remember, action can be a change in belief, a physical event, a redefinition, or any other demand that you will be making on your audience. As you know, the thesis statement is the sentence that states the main idea and helps control the ideas within the paper. It is not merely a topic, it often reflects an opinion or judgment that a writer has made after noting an exigence or a problem. So then from there, you're going to want to go to action/change plus audience equals claim. So here's an example for gun control. Liberal anti-gun activists should stop trying to take all guns away from US citizens. Instead, they should recognize that guns are a right as outlined by the US Constitution. Again, this is just an example. So here's an example from a previous class I think this is actually from Dr. Stein's class. That's some of the sample thesis statements that they came up with from this writing lab. Lawmakers should stop scientists and companies from using animal testing. Instead, they should recognize the alternative ways of testing as they serve the same purpose as animal testing. All doctors and health officials should be continuing to push for vaccines and make it mandatory as soon as possible. They should be recognizing that it is always going to grow better health in a positive direction instead of putting it off for a decision. And then here's an example for abortion. Pro-choice supporters should realize that taking away abortions for all women is wrong. Abortions are a health procedure that any woman should have the right to receive if she pleases. And then here's another example for abortion. And here's an example for the opioid epidemic. Government officials should take a look at the opioid epidemic in our country and stop looking at opiate-related deaths as a number and as real human beings. They should reevaluate how we approach the situation and look at what has worked for other countries, which is harm reduction. So that is our PowerPoint for today. Again, that can be found on our Blackboard page here under lessons, and it is the very last one at the bottom, as always. Okay, so from here, I'm going to show you all the materials. So from here, if you want to find the guidelines and everything, all you do is go under assignment information. And then go under the final research positions paper. And then this is where everything is. The research position guidelines are right here. And I'll just go through these briefly. I think it's pretty straightforward, to be honest with you. So I'm not as worried. I think we're kind of over the hump of the most difficult papers. And I think this will be, it's of course worth the most out of the papers, but I think it'll be a little bit easier. Like I said, it's basically a review, and this, if there was a final exam for this course, this is pretty much it, is this final paper. But honestly, it's not as scary as it seems. It's all stuff that we've been doing through Comp 1 and Comp 2. So you will be analyzing, you have already analyzed ethos, logos, and pathos appeals, and now you will be joining and advancing a pre-existing conversation. You will generate your own positions and support them with evidence gained from outside sources for logos. Establish credibility by synthesizing those sources responsibly and effectively that fully supports your reasoning with ethos and appeal to the emotions and values of the audience you choose to address. Pathos. All stuff we've been doing. So then for the invention for logos, you want to come up with an essential claim, which is actually going to be covered through the writing lab. Once you have settled on a claim, you will attach reasons to support your position. Your claim and reasons together will form your thesis, which should advance the conversation about your issue. You will need to decide who your audience will be. You will need to decide what you will ask of your audience. You could persuade them to change their mind, stage a demonstration, create an organization, make a reform, pass a law, and anything else that might persuade them to take action addressing your topic or your problem. So you want to address at least one extended counter-argument to some part of your argument. And then you will offer your own rebuttal. I will be talking more about the rebuttal section of the final paper on Thursday. So for now, just focus on your thesis and your reasons. And then invention for ethos. You know what you're talking about. This is a topic that you've been talking about all semester. You want to come across as a person of good character, good sense, and goodwill. Again, I've been talking all semester about how to do that, especially during the presentations and everything. So here are ways to be able to do that. And you can read those at your own leisure. And then the invention for pathos is presenting a clear, organized, well-supported argument, evoking emotions in your reader, evoking sensations, appealing to values that you and your audience share. So once you have completed invention or an outline for yourself, which is a great idea, is maybe doing an outline also when you go to do invention, which is basically what we're doing today. Anyways, from there you want to start with your thesis and also what the larger conversation around that thesis is, or what the rhetorical situation is, which I already talked about in the last video when I did sort of the preview for the final paper. And then from there, you want to be concerned, about style. So you're going to want in-text citations, a works cited page, MLA format, and we have gone over areas of grammar and punctuation. If you need further help, instead of consulting the Bedford Handbook, I would actually use the Little Seagull Handbook, because it has, hopefully you still have that, but the Little Seagull Handbook has details pertaining to MLA guidelines, quotations, sentence structure, grammar concerns. So when in doubt, I would definitely consult the Little Seagull Handbook. But again, you will want in-text citations for this paper. You will want a works cited page. So make sure to have that. Because everyone's argument will be different, I'm not going to specify the number of outside sources you should use, but the longer your works cited, the more likely you will seem thoroughly enmeshed in the conversation, and the likelier you will provide ample evidence to support your claims. So what that basically means is that you get to decide how many sources you need to be able to use, but the paper should be no shorter than 5 pages, and it should be 5 to 7 pages. If it's under that word count, again, that's kind of not good. If it's not at least 5 pages, you will get points off, because again, this is the final paper and this is basically like the final exam. So I'm not trying to make anyone nervous. I'm just being upfront and honest. So definitely would be paying the most attention here. Definitely proofread, definitely be doing double spacing, Times New Roman font, 12-point character size, and 1-inch margins all the way around. And we will be doing peer review. Just a small note on peer review, I'm sorry, I have a hard time saying that word sometimes. But just a small note on peer review, and a small concern from me, make sure when you do peer review to post on someone else's paper and then have someone else post on your paper as well on the discussion boards on Blackboard. The peer review is not only a required part of the course, but it's the best way for you to get feedback on your draft. And it's important to sort of step outside your comfort zone a little bit, and it's okay to email. Let's say that someone posted a draft and no one has responded to it. That's a great place for you to sort of jump in, email that person and be like, hey, is it cool if we partner up? And is it cool if we exchange papers and exchange feedback that way? Like, it's really on you guys to sort of initiate that and step outside your comfort zone a little bit. And even if it means working with someone else in the course that you haven't yet worked with, sometimes when it comes to online classes or something like this where we were forced, kind of had to go into an online format, it's sort of important for students to also take the initiative and reach out and maybe communicate with a potential peer review partner, because it's really on you to do that for yourself. So just a small note, make sure to, I think there was maybe just some confusion on peer review, but I was a little concerned, so make sure to complete peer review, especially for this final paper. Some people did a great job though and did reach out to other people and partnered up and provided peer review, so thank you for those people for doing that. I do appreciate it. It's great. But yeah, please make sure to do peer review, especially for this final research positions paper. It's pretty important. Anyway, I'm sorry for that small tangent, but anyway, the final submission for the final draft for the final paper is due on Tuesday, May 5th at midnight on Blackboard. And it is definitely should be a final draft, something ready to go before your audience. And like I said, peer review will be on peer review, so like the draft is due on May 5th. So we'll be doing peer review. I probably might even start peer review. I'll try to post it a little bit earlier on that Monday, so then everyone can get a head start on the peer review, get peer review done. And then the final draft, like I said, is due on Tuesday, May 5th, that day. So it's kind of just the timeline we have. We'll be doing peer review that day, and then the final research positions paper final draft is due on May 5th at midnight. And you definitely want to have it for May 7th because that's the last day of class. And I wanted to leave May 7th. The reason I didn't have the research paper due on May 7th is because we're doing final portfolio gathering, and we're also doing final reflection letters. You know, the cover letters you did for Comp 1. Those are also required for Comp 2, so that's what we're going to be doing that day. And I didn't want to have the portfolio and the paper due at the same time. That just seems like too much. So that's why I have the final paper due on May 5th at midnight. And like I said, I will try to post the peer review for the RPP on Monday morning, so then people can get started on that and rolling on that, because the final version of the RPP, or the research positions paper, the final paper, all the same thing, is due on Tuesday, May 5th by midnight. And then portfolios are due on final portfolios are due on Thursday, May 7th by midnight. So please note those dates, write those down for yourself. I cannot give an extension. There's just no way. As you can see, there's just no room for extensions on those 2 days. So if you gotta, catch up, I would start catching up as soon as possible to do what you gotta do and catch up. Alright, so those are the guidelines. And then here is the rubric here. So the rubric is pretty much the same. The only thing I think that's different on this rubric is logos, pathos, ethos, and of course the rebuttal, which is a required part of the paper. If you don't have the rebuttal, it can lead to some problems on your grade. And also make sure you have MLA formatting, process work. The rest is pretty much the same. I think that's really the only thing that's different. And of course, the research position paper sample. This one is actually from the instructor portfolio. So this is an example, a student sample that did well with the research positions paper. And this is an example. They go through the thesis statement. And I also highlighted the topic sentences, or I think that might have already been done for me even. The topic sentences is, of course, an important thing. I'm not going to read this whole thing. That's kind of on you to do, but this at least gives an example of what the paper might look like. And it's okay if your paper looks somewhat different, but it's important to look for the same things in your paper, like having a thesis statement, having transitions or topic sentences, having supporting reasonings, and of course having a introduction and conclusion. So this is another topic sentence here. And then this is the rebuttal, which I'll be talking more on Thursday about, but I definitely highly recommend reading the sample for yourself and maybe taking the time to write some notes for yourself and take a look through that final research paper. Because once you, okay, here's the conclusion here, and then basically they have a separate section for the rebuttal. And then from there, they have the works cited page. So I definitely highly recommend taking the time for yourself. It's pretty much your responsibility and on you to do that. And they do have elements of logos, ethos, and pathos in here. And it might not be a bad idea to have a body paragraph for each, for logos, ethos, pathos. And then taking a look at the guidelines here, and then going from there. Because again, if you have questions, if you're just like, I'm not really sure where to start, of course I'm going to point you to the guidelines and sort of have you go through the guidelines, because it's kind of like an instruction manual on how to do the paper, how to write the paper, what you should be writing about, and also how to organize your paper. It talks about everything that you should be doing for invention of logos, ethos, pathos. In fact, I would highly recommend doing something else that you might want to be doing for Writing Lab 5 and might even want to post for yourself, because then I can at least sort of gauge where you are and see where you are. So along with the thesis statement, one thing that you might want to do for yourself is starting invention for logos, ethos, and pathos at least, and at least start outlining that for yourself. And I think I even have a handout on how to do outlines on here. Do I not have that? Well, honestly, even going to Google, and I'll just type in Chapel Hill Writing Center outline, how to outline a paper. Yeah, this is, there's some great tips on here. So all I did is go to Google and typed in Chapel Hill Writing Center online and then how to do an outline. So if you're like, well, how do I format an outline? How do I do it? Here's an example here. And this is actually a YouTube video about how to write an outline, but I think they also have a handout. Yeah, see, there's all sorts of handouts that they have, and even on thesis statement. Oh, this is a great handout here. Actually, I might post this on Blackboard as we speak. I might as well do that. So I think I will put this on Blackboard. Okay, so I have uploaded a handout on how to create outlines that I found, and I actually really like this one. So all you do is go under the handouts tab on Blackboard in case you're curious, and if you want to start an outline, but make sure to do the Writing Lab and an outline for yourself. Definitely highly recommend to start outlining like logos, ethos, pathos, and of course the thesis statement for yourself. So then all you do is go under handouts and under the creating outlines tab, and I have a handy little handout that I found on how to sort of write different types of outlines for yourself. And it has some great sources and examples here. And they also link the video from the Chapel Hill Writing Center. I personally really like looking at the Chapel Hill Writing Center handouts. I use those all the time in my courses. So it also gives additional resources. If you don't like this handout, you can of course look at Purdue OWL, which I also have mentioned as a great resource for writing, especially research papers, and that's pretty much what we're doing this semester. And it also gives some great advice from Purdue OWL and the Chapel Hill Writing Center, and also from the Wisconsin-Madison Writers Handbook. So if you don't like this handout, you can always look at these two. Anyways, I think that's about it. I think I'm wrapping it up here. I think I have talked about everything that I need to talk about. I have discussed the final paper guidelines. I have discussed the sample in the writing lab, which is due on Thursday by midnight. So I hope you all have a great day. Please take care. And of course, you can always email me or message me on Zoom. And I have office hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays, online office hours from 5 to 7 p.m. So if you ever want to shoot me an email, you can do that, or message me on Zoom. And you can, of course, always make an appointment with me during the week, but try to give me a bit of a heads up on that if you do want to meet on Zoom. I think I have a meeting on Friday, but I think other than that, I think I'm pretty free this week, so please just let me know. I do have a meeting on Friday from 12 to 3 p.m., so that's the only one day that I can't meet students on Zoom. I have to actually attend that meeting. It's a GCC meeting, so I have to attend that. But other than that, I will be free this week, so if you want to make an appointment to discuss things on Zoom, that would be fine. And if you also want to make an appointment with the Learning Center, highly recommend doing so. One final thing that I actually do want to discuss before letting you all go is this flyer that actually I think the Learning Center has sent out, and also that the college has sent out. It's actually a flyer from the Learning Center. It gives tips on how to motivate. It talks about mindset. It talks about setting goals. It also talks about time management and creating a routine, organizing documents, setting boundaries. So if you need additional help, it's available on the flyer. You can always connect with the Learning Center. And you can always make an appointment through the Learning Center to get additional tutoring or help or schedule an online tutoring. Definitely highly recommend doing so if you need extra help with writing, especially for this final paper. You can go through Starfish and actually make an appointment that way, or you can email the Learning Center and get additional steps on how to do that, but there are additional steps that I already talked about. So anyway, I hope you all have a great day, and thank you. Have a good night.